Sometimes, the past is prelude. But little in the 21st century's first years hinted at the gale-force economic destruction that lay ahead. In 2007, the world again faced a crisis that threatened to upend economies and derail prosperity. The IMF, however, was no stranger to such trials. It was born of one. When the great powers met in Paris in 1919, they wrangled over US President Woodrow Wilson's proposals for restoring prosperity and peace after World War I. But a series of irresolute half-measures led to a Treaty of Versailles that ultimately failed to re-establish order. Within a decade, prosperity was lost. In another decade, peace was gone as well. With the end of World War II in sight, world leaders resolved not to repeat these mistakes. At Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, Harry Dexter White and John Maynard Keynes convened negotiations that quickly spawned the IMF and its mission to promote international monetary cooperation, trade, and the smooth flow of global capital. The IMF and other fledgling international organizations embodied the post-war spirit of multilateral cooperation, and eventually, Europe was rebuilt from war's decimation. But as economic activity burgeoned, the world faced new challenges. In the 1950s and 60s, newly sovereign African nations joined the IMF full of promise, but short on infrastructure. They sought support in building capacity and policy expertise. As African economies evolved, so too did the IMF's approach. As the 1960s wore on, increased US spending on the Vietnam War worsened the overvaluation of the dollar, straining the viability of fixed exchange rates. By the 1970s, the original framework for promoting economic stability collapsed. Under the IMF's Bretton Woods system, countries had to peg their exchange rates to the US dollar. But when the United States abandoned the gold standard, major world currencies began to float against each other. Even though the IMF developed new instruments in response, other challenges surfaced. Private sector capital flowed even more freely, but a more integrated global economy came with vulnerabilities. And the 1980s saw a series of escalating debt crises. The risks and downsides of globalization began to surface, sparking protests. This was not the first time ideologies had clashed. A history of fractious relations often hampered international collaboration. The original hope for comprehensive IMF membership shattered early on when post-war hostility cooled into Cold War enmity. Eventually, China joined the IMF. Later, the Berlin Wall fell. Membership rapidly expanded, and a new era of broader cooperation began. Yet with integration comes interdependence, making the coming of the 2007 crisis all the more formidable. The US subprime mortgage crisis sent shockwaves across the world. In 2008, panic surged, and the scope of the Great Recession overwhelmed any one country's capacity to contain its calamitous effects. The wound threatened to be deep and disfiguring for the global economy. In this moment, global leaders faced a choice. The community of nations could either pull together or apart. Fortunately, cooperation prevailed. The world community mobilized to avert a devastating sequel to the Great Depression, securing the breathing room to regroup and rebuild. Although the recovery is a work in progress, the world community has reaffirmed the IMF's ongoing mandate to promote growth and economic stability. The future holds many challenges, but the model of multilateralism has been tested and proven invaluable once more.